Cool. I'll go my first. I'm not the CEO anymore. Currently, I'm the VP of Product at Foundry. I was the CEO of LeadSip that was acquired by Foundry.
I'm Nadia Davis, and I lead demand gen at State.
And I'm Andrew Marr, and I lead sales at Triblio.
Yeah, that's a great question. And ultimately, if today any of you here have a list of target accounts, if you have your personas, your titles, if you have, specific ICPs, chances are you're already doing ABM. But you may be doing it in a silo of maybe the sales team going after specific accounts and marketing doing something else, right? Or maybe marketing targeting specific titles within the personas, and sales, they're just going after every lead. But ultimately, if you think about it and you bring the two sides together where either the marketing and sales leaders come together, or it's higher at the business level, where you say, okay, for this fiscal year, we all going to agree on the list of target accounts that we all going to go after, and we know our priorities. We all know who the personas are, so if the sales team sees certain accounts that they are pursuing, marketing can go and find contacts within the persona spectrum, right? Then essentially that's your ABA play. If you're not doing any of that, then you're kind of behind the curve. So at that point, you need to kind of reevaluate what it is that you're doing. Are you chasing MQLs? Are you chasing cold leads? Then it's, a race to the bottom. So I would say this is not the question of how important it is. It is important. If you're not doing it today, then the question becomes, you need to stop whatever you're doing today and reevaluate and get together with your sales team to do this.
Yeah, if I may add something to it, is if primary goal for B2B marketing is to drive pipeline, you need to bring in sales into the play, right? Whether it's ABM, intent, or any other tactic, they need to be bought in. So it's not how important, it's table stakes at this point. I wanted to share a story of how a company in the cybersecurity space was leveraging ABM intent. First, they tried it themselves just from marketing ops, demand gen, and then what happened when they brought sales in. So the thing that they were doing were they set up an intent feed, the data was piping to Marketo, and then the marketing team was scoring it and then doing activation off of that. The way it worked was the sales team gave the marketers a list of target accounts, pretty standard, a big target account list, and they were using intent to score in Marketo. And they were not getting a lot of good results until the sales folks got in, and what they basically said was, look, whatever triggers and things that you're looking for to score these accounts, why don't you let us choose what is important as a trigger? For example, one of the things they were looking at where if someone was engaging about a competitor, it would score very high in Marketo. The sales teams actually found out and said, if someone is talking about a marketer, it's already too late for the sales folks to go after and close the deal. So the sales folks said, instead of looking at people who are researching about a competitor, why don't you look at keywords that are specifically lower funnel, specific terms, not topics. And that's the change that they made. Everything else remained the same. The salespeople actually configured the scoring in Marketo, and they closed 60% of the list items on their ABM list. So that goes to show what happens, what kind of impact you can have once you bring in the sales angle to your ABM play. So that was a real example.
Yeah, and I'll answer the question from two perspectives. Most of you in the room are marketers, so I'll start there. So as marketers, it's really, really important. And I would say I wouldn't start the ABM program until you have sales. Some stakeholders in sales who are willing to make it a success with you and be invested in it. Marketing can start going after the right accounts. You can be getting impressions and reach and engagement, even leads and target accounts. But if sales is going to be going after something different than what you're focused on, and they're not going to be following up in the way, in a personalized way with the accounts that you're generating engagement with for them, you're just building that bridge to nowhere. You're getting prospects engaged, excited, but I've talked to marketers before who said, oh, we got engagement from this enterprise account, but then sales routed it to a BDR. The BDR used their generic follow-up playbook, and they ended up getting ghosted, and it went nowhere. That's really frustrating for a marketer. And so you need sales to be bought in, not just on the accounts that you're going after, but how are they going to follow up? Are they going to treat them with the same personalized follow-up, understand what marketing has done, and use that in their follow-up script? So that's really important if you want to be able to show results in your program, and I trust that you do. The other message is for the sales leaders you work with. it's really, really important for them to adopt this. And they may not understand that. They may view themselves as, needing to rely on, just their own, wits and talent to get to their number. But sales leaders have, behind all of the bravado, really influence over two things in their organization: headcount and productivity. And so in order to get to their number, they have to be making one of those two go up all the time. And in this environment especially, they probably don't have the option of adding a bunch more sales heads. And so making them more and more productive is imperative. For every sales leader you work with hitting their number this year, productivity per rep is the one variable they can probably influence. They're not going to be able to do that marching in a different direction than what you marketers are doing. And when you're giving them data and you're giving them higher converting plays and you're helping their reps know where to spend their time and what messages to use, you're helping their reps be more productive. And that, as a sales rep, that's what your sales leaders are going to be obsessed with this year, is making sure that happens. So for sales leaders, it's really important, and those are some of the talking points I would use when you're talking to your sales leaders about that. Like, look, this is about helping you with the leverage you have this year to get to your number, if you need to persuade them.
I think the marketers in the room are going to hate me, but I think we have a branding problem with ABM and getting the sales folks to use it. Just the word account-based marketing, right? So that might be a thing. But jokes aside, if I want to put my product hat, I think for sales to use any ABM tools or any digital marketing tool, the first thing that needs to happen is whatever insights, whatever data, whatever you're providing, it needs to fit their workflow. The last thing you want or expect a salesperson to do is go in, log into another platform, get in the data, and then go to another platform, contact data, and things like that. That doesn't work. Someone told me when building products for sales to use, especially in a marketing context, build rafts, not islands. I firmly believe that. So that's one thing. The second thing that I think is super important is the amount of data that you provide to the sales floor. So one of the things that we see is, as a marketer, we live and breathe a lot of data, a lot of pretty graphs and things like that. But when you're an AE or a BDR, you don't really care about the trend graph or analysis or time series or any of that. What you care about is which accounts I need to go after, who within the account I should be talking to, why should I be talking to them, and do you have the name of the person and their contact details. That's specifically what I need from this. So whatever tools that you are building to get sales to adopt your ABM tactics needs to fit their workflow and needs to be digestible nuggets that can help them accelerate their pipeline. So yeah, that's what I would say.
As far as for me, I've started an ABM program from ground zero in 3 different companies. 2 were mid-market, 1 was an SMB. And when it comes to adoption, I kind of watch the same path playing out time in and time out. So one, when you are in those conversations, maybe you're talking to your leadership about, the ABM approach. You have to come up with a strategy, the path, like what are the things that they need to be mindful of. I would really recommend for you to talk to your sales leader and understand the level of competency with that sales leader's competency with ABM. And what I mean by that, just understanding whether they've tried it or not, whether they've been in an organization that ran ABM, was it successful for them, what kind of challenges did they see? Because if you expect that you would come into an organization and say, we're doing ABM now, marketing is running around, they bought this expensive tool, the silver bullet, it's going to be different this time. Well, the sales team has to be bought in, and it starts with the sales leader. And I've seen in a lot of cases where the sales are, yeah, I've been in companies, we've done ABM. It's that deck that you sent me, right, on the lead qualification? No. And at that point, it's clear to me that, there's going to be a learning curve, and I cannot rely on my sales leader to be my pioneer, to be the person driving it. So in those cases, I would pivot. I would go to BDRs. If the BDR sits on your team, on the marketing team, then you have influence. You have that relationship with the BDR. You can really get them on board because, A, they're hungry. And if you come to them and start showing them all of these account insights, out of a sudden, you gave them the map that they didn't have. You give them information that now they can use to prospect better, find leads, get paid more. And 2, usually they're younger, they're earlier in their career, they're more coachable, And they're more likely to take advice from you, the senior marketer, who can give them the why. And then the BDR would start prospecting accounts. Chances are they got a relationship with the sales team. They would go to the AE, say, you know what, this account is doing something. You know, they looked at this page on the site. They, you know, clicked on this. They will synthesize this for the AE. It will start growing on your AEs. We're talking like, you know, change management. We're talking behavior, right? So then it grows with the AEs, and then they take it to the sales leader, and out of a sudden the whole team is talking about ABM, and the sales are like, oh, yeah, we're doing ABM. Everybody's talking about it. So I've tried those two approaches. Another thing that you have to be mindful of when it comes to adoption is MarOps excellence. Like, you can be a marketing leader, you can be a demand gen leader, but if you're not really strong with MarOps, you don't understand how all of these systems are talking to each other, how the data flows, what your Salesforce structure is, how the field gets populated. You watch. You're going to go into this training with a sales team, and there's going to be that smart aleck in the group who say, that number over there in that field, where did that number come from? Oh, that number is totally wrong. That's not what I'm seeing. And if you cannot anticipate those questions, if you cannot predict what they will ask and kind of advance, you know, answer those questions head on, saying, you will see something in this field, but this is how this, you know, number gets pulled, and this is what comes from the ABM platform, then you might run into the risk of them getting all excited and hyped up early on, but during that training period, seeing something which, you know, somebody kind of, you know, shoots a hole into. And out of a sudden, the whole team sees you failing because they ask you a question, and you're like, I'm going to take this question, answer it later. It doesn't work like that. You have to be very comfortable with the technology that you're showing to them. You have to be the SME. So get your MarOps hat, get trained up, you know, connect with if you have a MarOps team, if you have the luxury of having that team, do bring them into that conversation so that whatever question they may ask, you'll be able to answer that question. And then building on what Tukan has said about giving the one place for the sales team to look at, working this into their workflow, this is super crucial. Because if you tell them all the exciting things that us marketers get really hyperventilated about, this field and that field and the impressions and the intent topics and surging, this is great, but sales are not willing to change in a day and switch from what they used to do to the new thing. Because when you think about it, every time a new sales leader comes in those guys' career path, right, it's always something new. So change management is real. They're not dying to learn a new tool either. So if you're feeding everything into your Salesforce in the right way, you can tell them that, you know what, I understand you're doing things throughout your day. This is how you can work this into how you go about your workflow. You can look at this dashboard. You can look at this module and give it to them in a synthesized way where it doesn't create the burden of chasing multiple places, logging into multiple platforms, right? It's where they live, which is in Salesforce. And last, train, right? Give them the why. Show them what's within the platform that drives ABM. Yeah, it's going to be over their head. It's going to be too detailed, but they have to understand what it is that you're doing. All the wonderful ad creatives, all the wonderful orchestrations. You know, your ABM platform feeds into LinkedIn, and people will see it in an email and all the other places. Explain to them what it is that you're doing. You might have to do it twice. You may have to set up open office hours so that they would come and ask questions. They will ask you technical questions. You will be the shadow IT, so prepare for that and, you know, get comfortable with it. And when you do pick a platform, whatever drives your ABM, ask yourself a question. Okay, they're pitching to me. This sounds wonderful. This thing will do everything that I want. And it's AI too, so I don't have to do anything. Ask yourself, can you run this on your own with limited IT help, if any at all? Can you partner with that platform and count on the support team or CSM team or whatever to get you to where you need to be? Because the worst place to be, and I've been there because I've tried all of the platforms. I mean, I've run 2, I've gone down the discovery path with the other 3. You'll get to the point where they ask you a question and something that's not working and you were hoping to kind of skirt over that and not make it the focal point. They'll find it. And they will ask that question in the worst possible moment and you will lose it and it will be just yet another marketing thing and you don't want that.
Yeah, that's a lot there. You have done this a few times. I would add, I guess there's one rule you can break that I hear a lot, and then just some like practical advice on updating those behaviors for sales reps too. So the rule you can break is usually when people talk about starting up an ABM program, it's like, okay, well, don't start with too big of a list of accounts. Just like pick a few really good accounts to start with. I'm stealing this from a marketer that I worked with years ago. She told me, no, don't start with a group of accounts, start with a group of reps. And if you want to have success with sales adoption, that is really, really good advice. Start with a couple of reps who you know are going to work really well with you, piloting something, trialing something, going through the fits and starts of getting it to work, being patient with the data stuff, and you also as a marketer learning how to launch this program. And if you can make that first handful of reps successful, they will show up to sales kickoff or to the QBR and evangelize it to the rest of the sales organization and brag about the great results they got, and everybody else will be much more likely to jump on board. So let sales reps sell ABM into the organization just by making the first handful successful. And you do that not by picking a couple accounts first, it's picking those reps. And usually when I ask that question, every marketer kind of lights up and says, oh, I know who those reps are. And probably all of you know who those reps are that you could be successful with right away. Who are the best partners for you in the organization. The second thing for driving sales adoption, just some practical advice from the view of a sales rep, is a sales rep doesn't wake up, so once they're bought in and they want to do it, they don't wake up in the morning thinking, okay, well, am I going to do ABM today? Am I not going to do ABM today? It's really a lot of little decisions throughout the day that you're trying to get them to modify when they're going into their cold calling block and doing their prospecting. Are they working off of a list of accounts that they handpicked based on whatever criteria they wanted? Or are they using the data and the scoring that you're feeding to them based on intent and engagement signals and your ABM program criteria? When they're going to decide who to follow up with in that account, are they limiting that to what they think are the best titles or the people to reach out to? Or are they looking at the people that you've created engagement with in your ABM program, the contact data that you're providing, and starting again where the ABM program is focused? Who's been seeing your ads and is most likely to have you top of mind, that type of thing. Because the contacts that you're going to suggest that sales follow up with may be very different than who they're used to looking for in the CRM, not just based on titles, but engagement history, things like that. So you have to be there in those moments when they're deciding, okay, what accounts am I going to focus on today? Then who am I going to be talking to? And then finally, what do I say when I'm reaching out to them? Whether that's an open deal they have or whether that's prospecting, how do you get that information in front of them the moment they're making that decision? So if you're using a tool like an outreach cadence tool, then you need to have the templates built for them there or some kind of template support. So they're not going into the tool and again making, well, I already have this other template built out, so I'll just use that. You have to make it easy for them to pick the ABM choice while they're learning how to be successful with it. And that means a lot of setup work, a lot of training work. But again, don't think about it in terms of, well, convincing them to be bought into ABM and they're just going to go do ABM for 10 hours that day. You have to make all those little decisions throughout the day easy for them to do by putting the data right into their current workflows. So if they check your CRM to pick accounts, you better have a dashboard that prioritizes those things for them. If they have a view inside the account record that tells them which contacts to go after, the contacts you want them to go after better be the first ones they see in that list. And if there's a playbook you have built for them based on intent signals, that better be in a template that's really easy for them to use in their email tool or call tool, whatever it is. So again, help them with the little decisions. Don't think about selling ABM as this kind of one and done deal, but a lot of little decisions throughout the day that you're making it easier for them to do the right thing than the comfortable fast thing.
So given that we have 9 minutes left, I will just leave you guys with one thing, which I think is the holy grail of either you succeeding or failing. Whatever tools you have in your stack, if you follow the integration strategy where it's centralized place and the holistic ecosystem of every tool integrating with everything else that is around it, so think solar system, right? Your Salesforce is in the middle, and then all the other tools with the data flows. You got your fields mapped out, you got all of the right, sources mapped out. You can easily understand what came from where. This is like 90% of your success. I cannot tell you how many times I would come into an organization and I would look at their tech stack to do that initial audit, and I would see, oh, the Marketo integration is not on. Oh, nobody connected LinkedIn, but I mean, it's a 2-button click. people just don't think about it. You don't need an army. You don't need your IT, in a lot of cases. You might need some more ops support, but, that's a separate conversation. But if you just go and audit what you got and make sure you go into that integration button, whatever, within every tool and connect everything you got and map out the fields, you will be in such good shape. You will be able to provide account insights. If somebody comes to you with complaints, oh, I didn't see this account doing X, or as opposed to, oh, this account got an email that they shouldn't have gotten, ABM is not working. You will go into your Salesforce, you will go into your Marketo, you'll be able to trace back the steps and figure out what happened in this, food chain of tools within the ABM space of who came from where and why. And that right there builds credibility for you, the marketer, being at the center of ABM, you being the subject matter expert in the business believing you. Because they will talk about you with investors, they'll talk about you in the C-suite, because usually ABM is still, which blows my mind, still the new shiny toy, like, oh, we're doing ABM, are you? Right? So you have to be integrated all across in a holistic way.
If I may add, one thing that ABM tech stack needs is ChatGPT. I'm joking. No, what it does is, in addition to what Nadia said, it needs to be integrated with your system. And whatever tactics you are using in ABM, whether it's paid social, third-party display, email, whatever you're doing, events, and however it impacts the buyer's journey needs to be visible within the salesperson's workview. Meaning if it's that central system, which is typically a CRM that they're logging into, they need to see the account that they are going to reach out to, because you said it's a score of 88. It should show, how many times you touched that account through display network, how many times they saw a LinkedIn ad, how many times they visited your page, did they check the pricing page, did they open an email, did they view the email that you sent or check out your content any way. They need to see every part of the buyer's journey all within the system. I think that is table stakes. So, yeah.
Yeah, two other things I would mention. So there's a stat I just saw from a global marketing survey the other day where still, I think it was 2/3 of ABM or intent data buyers struggled to know how to make intent data actionable, even as part of an ABM program. And I haven't talked to hundreds of marketers about this over the years. The typical reason I hear behind that trend is that they'll say, oh yeah, well, we prioritized our accounts, but then sales, still came back to me and said, okay, well, the account's warm, but then who do I call? So I would say to make sales successful, this is, obvious, but needs saying, you have to have that contact level insight for them to work with. And so, whether that's an intent level, a contact level intent solution like ours, some way of putting automated contacts in front of them so they're not coming back to you saying, well, who do I call? Or just, again, going back into your lead database and looking up some cold lead and trying to recycle them and get a different result than we got last time. So the contact data is crucial, and if you can get intent on the contact level, then that's the holy grail that sales has been asking for a while. The second thing I would mention is something that's probably in your, one of the things that a lot of marketers hear once a lead becomes an opportunity is, hey, thanks, please don't touch this opportunity anymore, I'll close it on my own, right? And you have rules in your email system that say, oh, it's an open op, don't email them. But you can do a lot to help sales close deals. The reason that those rules typically get, created in organizations is because one wrong email got sent and it might have messed up a deal, or just, the sales rep got a sassy comment from a prospect or something. And so it's like, okay, we just don't talk to them anymore. That's a huge waste of marketing insight. It's a huge waste of your tech stack, of the reach you have into those organizations. And one of the big problems is that usually in your CRM, once something becomes an opportunity, there's not a field, there's no data that tells you, well, what's the most helpful thing marketing could do at this point? Now, sales has this. They have a field on their opportunities that says, what's the risk right now in this account? It's somewhere in, how they're qualifying things, and the sales manager is going through that every week in their one-on-ones. So sales knows what they want to happen in that account. They know what risk they're trying to eliminate. If you can turn that into a field that can be a segment for you, and then you can go to the sales organization and say, actually, how about every time we see this risk signal, we get these ads in front of these stakeholders that promote this value proposition. You can then begin to influence not just opportunities being created, but opportunities being closed. And that then helps you actually to help them to close the deals, which is, what does it mean we're talking about making sales successful with ABM? What would that mean? Well, that would mean close deals. I think we can all agree on that. Not just adopting it, but actually closing deals with it. Marketers, you have lots of insight, lots of tools and resources that really can help reps close. It just has to be done in a way that they trust. And that's broken down in a lot of organizations. But it's something we've seen be rebuilt. And when sales reps know that there's great marketing air cover going in and helping them reach new buyers and eliminate risk and get the right message in front of key people, they love that. It's helping them to do their job. But it's a trust and process that has to be rebuilt, and your tech has to support it.